It's another series of dog walks and business chats featuring Finn in our lovely little trail just outside of town. It's one of our favorite places to be. So come on, let's talk business and walk the dog. Today's dog walk topic, I really hate talking about my own success because I don't think it's really conducive to really what the type of clients that I work with are trying to do. I also think it's also sometimes detrimental because some of the steps that I might have taken in my business doesn't mean that they're the right steps for you to take in your business. And, I've been caught in that loop myself of mimicking mentors that I've worked with and trying to build their business models. And it actually ended up just like making me build something that I really hated. And that became a problem down the road. And so I really try to stay away from talking about my own success and really put my clients in the spotlight instead, because they are like you, and that's important to see the steps that they've taken and see the steps carry over from different business types to different business types and see it always work. So, but today's video is like, this topic was kind of sitting on my mind, and I think it's important. So here's the context that's important. Yesterday, I stood in front of a group of 70 plus people. I'm not sure how many people were in there, and walked them through how I grew PDBM, Perfect Day Business Mentorship, if you're new around here, to consistent 100K months. And then most recently, this 145 plus K month that October is going to be in. It's a really important value of mine to, you stand on the shoulders of giants. All the people that came before you, they've given their time, their knowledge, their attention to help you do the things that you're doing. And it's important to acknowledge that first and foremost. And then secondly, to turn around and give that right back to the people that are behind you. So this opportunity that I had was, just a top tier experience and something that's really important to me. The thing that bothers me about doing that is because you're only really seeing one frame of the movie, and it's at the end. You're not really seeing the 10 frames that came before and all the steps and all the necessary things that person needed to do or go through or learn or experiment with in order to get to the 10th frame that you're now watching, right? And you can do this step by step like I did and pull the curtains back and share what that's like and all the things that got me to that point, but it still captures the in the moment peaks of the story, right? So the thing that I've been thinking about is when I look back on the 2.5 years PDBM is almost 4 years old, but just, full transparency, kind of dawdled through the first 3 years. Business was good, but I didn't really have any pain points that pushed me to have to or want to bring in more money other than just, hey, this is cool. So the kind of major things that happened along the way, there's really 3 of them. And these are the 3 pieces that people need to focus on, small business owners need to focus on almost more than what are the actual strategies that a person takes to be successful, okay? Because you can listen to anybody's success story and break it down. And after you peel away the surface level, they did this, then this, then this, you will always come back to these 3 main concepts. Always. So here's what they are. Here's the first one. The first one is the plan, right? The fact that there is a plan. That's why I'm in the position that I'm in, to not only build the business that I am, but the types of people that I work with, because I was them. I was a small business owner who thought I knew it all, and if I didn't know it, I would figure it out on my own, right? My ego was just too big that I wouldn't allow for help because I just thought that I could figure it out on my own, right? And here's the problem with that is all of us get into business. We open our business because we're an expert at what we do. Like, we are awesome at what we do. We're technicians of our craft. And building a business and running a business usually falls secondary to that. That's like the second thing, or maybe it's even further down the line for most of us. But it was for me, and it is for the majority of the people that come to me that I work with. And that's a problem, right? Because in order to keep doing the thing that you want to do, this thing that you are a master of your craft at, you need a business to enable that. And it's usually accompanied with this like valiant mission of this unreal thing that you want to accomplish in your life using your business as the platform, which is great. You will never meet a more humble person than a small business owner. But that valiant mission is like not as impactful if you're broke, exhausted, tired, stressed out, running out of gas all of the time. So knowing how to build your business so it supports your lifestyle is like massively important to the valiant mission that you want to carry out. And we skip that sometimes. All in all to say is that you can't just wing it. Like, you can wing it. I did for 8 years, but that came with not paying myself, super early mornings, super late nights, not being at home with my family, spousal stress because, he wanted me there. So like, you can try and figure it out on your own. I tried to do that for 8 years, and all that left me with was no money, super early mornings, super late nights, missing meals with my family, not being at home, having to say no to doing a lot of things, missing vacations, missing trips, and just not being able to do that. But most importantly, I could not pay myself for 8 years simply just because I kept telling myself that I would figure it out on my own. So what I'm trying to say is you can buy the shortcut. You can buy yourself speed. You can buy yourself time by finding somebody who has done the thing that you want to do, is walked the steps that you need to walk, has the things you want, is the kind of person you want to be, is doing the things that you want to do. If you can find that person and pay for the shortcut, that's the best part about having a coach or a mentor on your side, is because they can lay the groundwork for you and give you the step-by-step of how to do what it is that you want to do, but faster. And so I tell myself that often, if I could just look back on time, those 8 years that I wasted in my first business of just being so egotistical that I could try and figure this out on my own, that digging my heels in and hustling and working harder was the answer, man, that business would have been so successful so much sooner. And, it hurts looking back on it, but it also was a massive lesson. Okay. So that's the first thing I want to get across, is that you need to build a plan. You need somebody to give you that plan. And that plan enables you to buy speed and time, which is the most important part of the equation. All right, let's talk step 2. Step 2 is really important because I think this is often the part that gets missed a lot, is you hear someone talk about the steps to their success, and you just think that if you put those things into your business, that you will get the same success right away. But it doesn't usually work like that, because the piece that's missing, the piece that most small business owners don't do enough of, is reps, volume, reps and volume. Okay. When I say reps, I mean, it doesn't need to be perfect. And quite in fact, the more ugly it is, the better it is, because that just means that you're doing it and you're getting it off the ground. I gave a story yesterday, an example through the middle of as I was walking people through the checkpoints to this 145K. And one of the checkpoints was a period of time where I decided to, quote, go pro. And this was something that one of my mentors had said at the time, that when you decide to go pro, it's no more just tomfoolery, kind of figuring things out. You do the steps you need to do, and you do enough of it to get to the skill acquisition level that you need. And in the moment, going pro for me meant content. It meant going all in on, for me, it was short form and long form. It was finding an editor who was super awesome at what he did and could bring my vision to life. And just being able to invest money, knowing that these were the steps that needed to happen for some of the bigger picture things that I was building. So in that moment, I went go pro. But it doesn't mean that you just start producing videos or you start sending emails or you start making posts or whatever it is, and automatically you're going to get the result that you want. It doesn't work like that. Your first rep is going to be extremely ugly. When I decided to go pro, I decided to focus on short form video and long form video because video is not something I'm comfortable with, but it's something that is necessary for the platform that I am trying to work on. That's cool. But that meant that some of the early videos, if you scroll back far enough in my feed, they are garbage. And I was embarrassed to post them, but I knew they were a step of the process. So that's kind of part one, is that first rep is going to be extremely ugly, but it is the most important because it is the first rep. And you can't stack the good reps until you have the first bad rep. The second part of this lesson is volume. Just because you put up one rep, whether it's good or bad, it doesn't mean that you're going to get the result that you want. You have to put the reps in. So the next thing I committed to was posting 100 short form videos. It doesn't matter if they were 100 shit videos. It meant that I was going to put myself in a process where I had to get the skill acquisition of scripting, sitting in front of the camera, which is not something that I enjoyed doing if it wasn't presenting to my group. I had to learn how to send it to the editor, to tell him what I wanted, to give him feedback until we got to the vision that I wanted, and so on and so forth. And you don't get that by putting out one rep. So 100 short form videos later, we finally had a process and we finally had a product that I was really proud to put out and start to build more stackable reps on. And so if I could pull any part of the story aside and point at and say, this is the most important one, it would be this: reps and volume. If you want to get better at something, if you need to grow your business, you need to do more of it, and you need to do the ugly reps before you can get good at it. All right, let's talk about the third step. You've found the plan, you've done the volume and the reps, and so now what? How do you actually change that into something that is useful? The last part of the puzzle that small business owners don't pay enough attention to is data and making changes. And here's what I mean by that. The first thing is you're probably not tracking enough or anything at all. I find business owners come into our CEO Clubhouse all the time, and they definitely don't track anything, and they don't know what they should be tracking, or they don't know how to be tracking it. Data is so important because if I ask you what do you need to do to grow your business, you might say something like, I think, or I feel like, and neither of those types of sayings are concrete or cement in what actually is going on inside your business. Quite often we just say what we think, and what we actually think could be very different from the actual problems. And the reason is because we are going to bias naturally to things that we like to do. So naturally we're going to want to do more of those things or fix those things, and we completely ignore the things that we don't like to do or don't want to do. And those might actually be the actual problem, but we don't know that because we're not looking at the actual story. And so that's what data is. It's context to the story. And I was like this too in all of my businesses, and I'm not a detail-orientated person. So to say to me, hey, you need to track all of these things, it was a really big deal for me because it wasn't something that I felt comfortable doing or felt really good at doing. But once I kind of figured out that this is a necessary step of the puzzle and will keep me on the right track and not being distracted by things that don't actually matter, and that's when I went quote unquote pro at just figuring out how to track data. And so you're going to want to track whatever is relevant to your business. Okay. So for me, that's the money thing. So money in, money out, our team, paying our team staff. It's things like understanding how the social elements are growing. How is the following growing? How are the reach outs going? How are the responses going? And how many offers are getting made? And out of those offers, how many clients are we selling? And it's also understanding different things like the long form numbers, the short form numbers, the actual ads that are going out, all the little semantics along the way. Each step of the way tells a different version of the story. And so if you don't have those numbers, you're constantly going to be guessing, or you're just going to be biasing to whatever it is that you actually want to be doing instead of what actually needs to be done. And so the last piece about data is what you do with it. It's only one thing to know what numbers you need to track, but what do you actually do with those numbers? And so the key here is to make super small changes, one change at a time. We look at the list, we look at what is the biggest opportunity, the lowest hanging fruit for us to improve, and we build strategies around that one data point to help that data point improve. The trick here is we don't want to make a ton of changes, because if you make a ton of changes, you don't actually know what is affecting the problem and if it's actually working or not. And for me, this was a really important step of the process because I just wanted to make massive changes all the time to try and implement new or shiny things when I just really had to focus on one simple thing and one tactic at a time. And so I bring up data tracking because this is kind of like the part that differentiates the beginners and the people who are actually dedicated to growing their business. I find that people who want to grow their business, but they're not really committed to it, are probably going to fight this detail. And I find that the ones that are all in and understand the steps that they're going to have to take might feel super uncomfortable or not enjoying this part of the process, but they're okay with it and they understand that and they go and do it anyways. So as I was thinking about this video for the last couple of days, I didn't want to be like, oh, here's the steps I took to get to 145K, because that's not useful. It truly isn't. You can watch that type of content and honestly, it's just not going to do anything for you except maybe plant 100 new ideas in your mind when you really shouldn't be focusing on those things anyways. I wanted to pull the covers back and show you what the actual important pieces of the puzzle were, and it's understanding those super small semantic things. It's understanding, have a plan. Like first and foremost, you need a plan, because without that, you don't have a compass and you're just going to waste a ton of time, energy, money, and attention that you don't have right now. So find a plan. If you need a plan, go to Instagram, find me, Taryn Dubreuil, DM me 99, and I'll show you the exact steps that all of our clients take to get to consistent 30K months on 3 to 4 days a week. The second thing is make sure that we're going for reps and volume. It doesn't matter what it is that you're doing inside of your business to help it grow. It needs reps and it needs volume. It needs that ugly first rep. Stop trying to work in paralyzation of perfect and thinking that everything needs to be perfect so you don't do anything at all. Just get that first ugly rep out so you can start stacking reps on top and focus on volume so you can acquire that skill. And the last piece of the puzzle is the data component. Track everything meticulously, and when you go to focus on one particular data point, make a small change at a time so you can assess whether that change actually improved it or decreased it. Now I get it, this stuff doesn't sound like rocket science, but that's the difference between the people who are just beginners and the people who are actually seeing the success that they want. Is they don't care if it's not rocket science. They understand the principles behind these things and they go and do them anyways. I didn't get to 145K by chance, and it definitely wasn't luck. It's strategy, it's intention, it's volume, it's narrow of focus, and it's just do it over and over and over again. All right, that's Business Chats with me and Finn. Finn, I hope you have a great day. So if you got this far, I think that's awesome. There's really 2 things I've got for you. If you want the exact roadmap that my clients have taken, that I've used myself in my previous businesses and this business, just click on this video down below and that'll take you to step 1 of the process and you can work your way through that. So watch that 30K roadmap video. I'm going to link it right here for you. The other thing is if you want help installing that roadmap, if you want that plan, if you want step 1 of what I've talked about today, go to Instagram, find me there, Taryn Dubreuil, DM me 99, and I'll give you that plan. I'll work with you to put it into your business to help you get those consistent 30K months so that you can start to build the freedom of money, time, and mental space into your business. Super hyped you're here.